You mentioned whole body vibration. Can you talk about that a little bit more and what that can do for you?
Well, whole body vibration actually has been around for a long time, and I don't even know how many years, but you can see where it goes back. Maybe we talk about decades, but maybe centuries.
Really? Okay.
But you know, we saw in the 50s and 60s women who would use these big belts behind their backs and
That's
their
what
rear
I
ends.
picture, yeah.
That's what, when you hear whole body vibration, that's what you think, you know, and they're just shaking uncontrollably, and you see the guy with the jackhammer out on the street, and they think that that's it, but that's really not it. This is equipment that was kind of pioneered into reality by the Russians, because the cosmonauts would, and anyone, actually, ultimately the astronauts, but the cosmonauts would go up and they'd be in space for a while in a weightless situation, and they would lose bone mass and they would lose muscle mass.
Right.
So if you're up there, you can't be up there too long or you just kind of fade away. And so they tried to counteract that. So they made some form of whole body vibration that the cosmonauts would use. And what happened is they came back with more bone mass and more muscle mass. So they determined that it worked. What happens in whole body vibration is you stand on these pieces of equipment, and we believe we've discovered the best one that the ordinary guy can afford. I mean, you can pay $25,000 for a piece of equipment, but you don't need that. You can get one for almost 10 times less than that if you know what to look for. And but you stand on these machines that actually vibrate in a teeter-totter type of situation. You just stand on them, move your feet in or out, and the amplitude is how much that plate moves from side to side. And the more you move your feet out on the edges, the higher amplitudes you get. You want a machine that has a lot of vibrational capability and has a high hertz. The ones we recommend go from 5 hertz to 60 hertz, and that's a cycle. So if you've got 16 hertz, for instance, that means that every second your muscles are contracting and relaxing 16 times, and your cells are breathing like that, and your whole body is being worked. And it's just a marvelous thing because your cells really breathe in. Nutrients go in and out. Your muscle mass is increased. Your bone density is increased. This is great for elderly people. Actually, the oxygenation is increased dramatically. So we haven't found a person that this isn't good for. I talked about the ALS guy who couldn't even get out of his chair, and yet this helps people. We talked to, we got this story from another party, one we trust and believe in, who had a Parkinson's gentleman he was elderly on one of these. Now this was a gentleman who was so afflicted that he could shuffle, but he couldn't walk normally. He would just shuffle along. And he could speak, but you really couldn't understand him. It was intelligible. And so what happened is they got him on this machine for 10 minutes. After that time, he stepped off and he walked normally. And he spoke, and everyone could understand him. What is the long term for this? We don't know for sure, but that in and of itself is a miracle. And of course, we work with other things for these people as well. Extra virgin coconut oil, turmeric, vitamin D3 and B vitamins for these people with neurodegenerative diseases in conjunction with this whole body vibration. And the science and the research is there. You know, we're not saying use this, it's good, you know. Turmeric happens to be probably one of the best and nutritive disease-fighting foods in the world. No one can deny it, the curcumin in the turmeric. And so we put all of these things together that have a legion of research behind each and every one, and they work well. And so we're pushing people in those areas. Obviously, we're not telling anybody that this cures your cancer, this cures your neurodegenerative disease, because no one can effectively do that. I did that last year when I spoke at the Cancer Control Society. My opening line was, there's not one thing in this building, in this hall, that can cure your cancer. And of course, there was a gasp and a long sigh in there. And finally I said, but there's a lot of things that will help restore your immune system and bring your body back to homeostasis. That's the only thing that's going to cure your cancer, and you need to know that. And it works with these other things as well. Many people have things they recommend and they forward, and then they're good, but they're part of the puzzle. In and of themselves, there's not one thing. There's many patients out there that would argue with me on that because they use one thing and it worked for them. And that's okay. But we know that it's really a lifestyle change, and it involves all those 5 things. Some want to say more, okay, but I believe it involves those 5 things, and that's what we use, and it works for almost everyone.